did not hit her. It's not true.
Oh, hi, Mark. Anyway, how is your sex life?
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
Welcome back to Cocktail Cinema, folks, your weekly movie review podcast. I am your first favorite bartender, third favorite author, Josh Price. And as always, I am joined by my co-host, Greg, and our producer, Shasti.
Hey, hey.
Yep. We are reviewing possibly the greatest movie ever made this week, The Room. This movie came out in 2003. It was directed by Tommy Wiseau. It had a budget of $6 million and a box office return of $1,900.
Did you say $6 million? And 1,000. Oh man, this is gonna be good.
Oh man, yeah. So just a box office hit there. Just
what do you do with all that money? We'll talk about it.
Yeah, I mean he's just swimming in it right now.
I guess.
Yeah. So this is definitely an indie film, written, directed, and produced by Tommy himself. And the other main star, Greg Sestero, who plays Mark, was the line director. So he was involved with like script and stuff. So very much an in-house production as much as they could keep it. They had to hire out a crew for a lot of the other stuff, but where Tommy could be in control, he was in control.
And you get that right off the bat. Because,
it shows.
Yeah, I mean, goes through the credits, written, directed, produced by, and then automatically shoving himself into a sex scene.
Yeah. This movie starts with a sex scene.
His sex scene.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and it's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable because you can tell he doesn't know how to act. Yes. And there's a couple other things in this movie that you're not sure he knows how to do.
Right.
He doesn't know how to doesn't know how to throw a football.
Oh man, don't get me started on the football stuff.
I would honestly say he's probably better at throwing a football than any of the aforementioned.
Oh, the best movie ever.
So, Greg,
yes,
we've talked a little bit off mic, but this was your first time seeing this movie, right?
Yep.
Give it to me full bore. What did you think?
All right, going through the process. First, I was like, how does the title correlate with the film, The Room? And for the most part, they stayed in that red room. You know, a lot of stuff would happen. And then they started to venture out. The flower shop, upstairs to the roof, here and there. I'm like, the room doesn't fit. So title sucks.
Yeah.
Also, I was angry for a lot of this because of, in my brain, I had to turn off whatever connectors that are going through one's mind as watching a decent film, and realize this is for fun.
Yeah.
And then once I created in my mind that, hey, I like this movie, then it was a fun flick. But overall, angry at first, settled in. There's a lot to talk about, you know, because do I think that this movie holds a place?
Yeah.
Yes, but the wrong place. It's like what not to do. It's like the writer's book of what not to do kind of thing.
Totally.
And throughout that, I mean, there's a lot of filler. Like we talked about the football scenes where none of them play football or know how to throw a football. Just overall people that there's no mention of. All of a sudden, the best friend shows up, who's a psychologist, and
Peter.
Yeah, and then the overdubbing or whatever the hell's going on with Wiseau's voice there. Like, I'm so confused by why. It's like you're watching a foreign film because nothing comes across the right way. So it's like they had to restep and redo everything. So yes, this movie is a roller coaster for all the wrong reasons. That's my take.
So this movie's iconic for a lot of reasons. Like, this is the definition of a cult film. So when it first came out and it was
like
doing
Kool-Aid
like
cult film, like everybody died.
Yeah.
You want to clear yourself.
When he was trying to do the festival circuit, people thought it was a comedy.
Right.
So it very much like how Birdemic was seen as a funny movie. People were laughing, and Tommy just couldn't understand it. And he was upset.
That's great.
But it's
like
because of
Hot
those
Rod.
things you're talking about, where like the ADR or the post production like voiceover. So ADR refers to typically either background audio or audio that has to be re-recorded after filming, and in every situation where it was used, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Because it's either cut too close, like there's a scene in the flower shop where they have like 5 lines in the span of a second and a half.
And nothing works.
And then Tommy is notorious for mumbling. Like, even in his interviews, it's very hard to understand him because he really chews on his words. And they had to re-record a lot of his stuff so it doesn't match up with his lips moving, and they had to.
It's like you said before, like you can tell he's got enough knowledge to know he needs to do things like that, but it's like not executed the right way. Like in that situation, even at the flower shop, you know what I mean? Just knowing that you're going to have to like do that moving forward, you would just get room noise.
Yeah.
Because even with nobody talking,
Yeah,
every room sounds a little different.
Yeah.
And once you start doing
And also
any ADR work at all, it goes from having that one sound to being in a booth or something dead silent.
Right.
So that's like in my ears, just like perk up here. That it's just like, oh
Yeah,
my
there's
God.
no ambient sound.
And I want to add that flower shop scene was not necessarily unnecessary in the whole movie. I mean, just like these characters are. It's just very frustrating to me. But
But it's like that's the best scene. You know? It's just-
hey, puppy. You're my best customer.
that's the charm of the
It's
movie.
wonderful.
He's
for
holding
sure.
the flowers like an asshole. Like he's never bought a woman.
Yeah,
before,
right.
You know,
He holds them upside down at one point.
yeah, the whole time,
Yeah.
like even in the car. It's like, okay, buddy. Obviously, your sex scenes aren't weird enough where it's like belly button time, but it's whatever.
Yeah, and like Shasti said, like Tommy clearly understands film as an amateur, but not enough to pull off an amateur film. So like he knows he needs establishing shots. So you see all these shots of San Francisco and the outdoors and stuff, but they either linger too long
He
or
just
they
puts them in
don't
there.
fit.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we're
Like
gonna show the full house.
they're
the full
establishing
house,
the wrong thing.
Home, you know, it's just
Like there's that scene of him getting the
oh,
there's that
great.
scene of him getting the newspaper, and then the next scene is not in the house.
yeah.
So
It's all over the place.
he knows this stuff belongs in the film. He just doesn't know where it
To
goes.
be honest, I felt bad for the guy for the most part. It's like, you really put this out? $6 million for $1,000 return.
Well, I'd be willing to bet he's broken even on it now.
maybe now.
Because like they do still have showings. Like when I was in college,
Yeah, no, I heard
this movie
that.
came out in 2003. When I was in college, I think I watched this movie like spring of 2010. It was my freshman year. So it was my second semester freshman year. We went to a local theater that was showing it, and my professor was like, "All right, everybody needs to bring plastic spoons,
Yeah.
and every time somebody leaves a door open, you have to shout." Shut the door. So like there's these cultural things that go along with the movie.
So it's a drinking game for like the
Essentially.
ages. Yeah. Holy
Yeah.
crap.
But then after we have this experience, Dr. Gross is like, all right, what did he get right? Like anybody can point out what he did wrong, but what did he do right? And like he knows that establishing shots exist. So like that's one thing. Like the very opening of the movie when he's doing the credits, that's not bad. And then the spoiler alert for this nearly 20-year-old movie, when Johnny dies, that scene is probably the best shot scene in the whole movie
100%.
it's the proper
Not
use
only
of
because the
slow-mo,
movie
it's
is
emotional.
over, but
Yeah.
yes, you're
Yeah.
right. As far as camera shots go, it's the best one in the whole movie, 100%. And you get that.
Yeah.
And then, but you know, a funny thing about that scene, the movie should have ended there. But then they bring Denny back in, and
Yeah.
Denny's this weird little kid who comes in the movie and just like, hey, I like to watch you guys have sex. And they're like, oh, we love
Yeah.
you, Denny. It's just the weirdest thing ever.
My next point I was going to get, because you said like you can sit around and say what he did wrong, what did he do right, and I would say that the one thing he did that no other filmmaker has made was make a character as creepy as Denny. Like by far the creepiest character in history. Like he wins. He wins 100%.
Well,
Fair enough.
And
I
then,
never
Johnny's
would've
probably
thought of that.
the second one.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
no,
Johnny
Denny
you expect
is
to be weird,
fucked.
but Denny, now that I think about it, like none of Denny's storylines work though.
No.
Like
Right.
they're never finished.
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of stuff in this movie that I think is based on people in Tommy's real life, and like how like Johnny doesn't drink because Tommy doesn't drink and Tommy doesn't smoke weed, but
Yep. They throw it in
you
there.
know, I mean, we drink.
Sometimes.
So
this is cocktail
we're
cinema.
gonna in honor of that first drink that Johnny had.
The first red dress.
First, yeah. We are having the Red Dress Princess Martini here on the rocks. So this is 1.5 ounces of French Kiss, an ounce of vanilla vodka, and an ounce of Palma liqueur. Give it a quick stir. We're doing it on the rocks, but you can do it in a martini glass. And if you did it in a martini glass, just give it a quick lemon twist, and there you have it.
All right.
None but booze, baby.
So yeah,
That's a slutty drink.
surprising cherry notes. Surprising cherry notes. But so like Johnny doesn't drink, and that's a key point in the movie for no reason, because in the climax of the film, he's having champagne. So like there's this whole plot line of like, I don't drink. Why are you trying to get me drunk? Why are you trying to get me to drink?
Right.
And then in the party scene, he's having champagne the whole time. So it really nullifies all of those points about the things in his life that he's trying to avoid.
Right.
And it's I just think, like I said, Tommy doesn't quite know how to pull off a movie. He doesn't quite know how to put Johnny in a party position where he's giving a toast without having him drink. Whereas any current filmmaker would either just have him be a light drinker, or they would have him pass his drink off to Denny. Like, you almost think he's going to do that.
Yeah,
but then he takes it away.
Yep. He said later. That which is weird too. It's like later when we're in the bedroom.
Right. Yeah. It's just that every ounce of this movie is weird.
Yeah.
And it's glorious.
Some would say it's so.
It's terrible, but it holds a very special place in film history. Like it's more memorable than things like Birdemic, because number one, of the effect it had on the audience. Number two, Tommy kept like marketing it as a real movie, like this is a drama. This is the best thing that's ever been made. Yeah. So he was taking out billboards in San Francisco for years after this.
For like crazy. Hundreds of thousands of dollars a week.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's
on
insane.
top of the $6 million.
That's insane.
Like that was outside of his marketing budget. So like this, and nobody knows where he got his money. Like it's his whole life.
He's definitely the international man of mystery. It feels like, where's he from? Where did he get his money? What did he do with this movie? $1,000? Come on.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he clearly put that $1,000 back into billboards.
Well, I was reading, or I saw, I can't remember, but he lost his production cast like one or two times, right?
Twice.
Because they were just like, you're making a shitty movie, basically. And I think once he wouldn't like spring for bottled water and food.
Yeah, so Tommy, the first time they quit was because he was being anal retentive, and he was like overbearing on the assistant director, and so everybody walked off set. And the second time it was because they're filming this in the middle of the summer in San Francisco, and everybody like on set has to wear suits for this particular scene. And people are almost fainting from dehydration, and he wouldn't go get
all the
water.
Football playing.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very strenuous moment. So everybody left. So it was just Greg and Tommy, and Greg went out and he's like, "Look, we're just gonna get these people water. We're gonna get everybody back. We're gonna start again tomorrow." And he was able to, like, you got to give Tommy credit. He was able to sweet talk the entire crew into coming back twice.
You think that was overdubbed too?
Come
on,
Lisa.
Lisa.
He did it in real life,
Lisa.
and then he went back.
Hi guys.
What are you thinking about, man?
You're tearing me apart, Lisa.
So that whole relationship with him and Lisa.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Because I mean, Lisa obviously was the main show, yes, for sure. But I mean, when you're dating a guy like Johnny, it's like, well, but you shouldn't have gotten that anyway.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think it's kind of clear that the final draft of this movie is somewhat based on a real relationship. Like it's just too disjointed to be entirely made up.
You're saying Tommy Wiseau got burned.
I think so.
Yeah, seems like that.
I think it feels like when he first came to the States, even though he claims he was born here, when he first came, at least to San Francisco, he was in a relationship that didn't go well, and this is him getting over it. But
I can see it.
That's just my take on it, because there were 3 other drafts of this movie. There's a draft of this movie where Johnny is a vampire.
No, that makes so much more sense. We should have stuck with that one. Is that why the title doesn't match? Because there were so many drafts?
Yeah, so the first draft is where they got the title, and it was more of a play. And then as things progressed and as the script changed, they held on to the title, but the story changed, so it wasn't primarily in that front row.
Flies away in the end with his cape.
That makes way more sense that way, for sure.
And I wonder how many elements of the vampire script are still in this version. Like it'd be glorious to see like what came out of that draft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what. I'm still shell shocked from this movie basically because it ruined.
Yeah, and
my
like
entire thought process of critically watching a movie. It's like I had to literally twist my brain to watch the rest of this movie. I know it's not the same for everyone, but
yeah. Well, and it's. I brought this movie to the table for two reasons. The first is you guys know I love terrible movies, and the second was the first time I saw this movie, I had to watch it with a critical eye. This was probably the first, well, one of the first, if not the first, movies that I watched critically and was consciously breaking down the elements of film and trying to understand its place in culture and in film history and, you know, the craft. So it holds a very special place for me, and I know it holds a special place for a lot of people because that theater was fucking packed.
Really?
It was slammed.
Really?
It was not
It's
an
funny
empty
you say that
seat.
because I also was listening to somebody say that the first Saturday of every month that they play this movie, people show up with their spoons like you were talking about and everything, and just loving it. And it just
It's
like a
an
drinking game
experience.
for people that don't drink.
Yeah, it is. It is. So that kind of wraps it up for me. Greg, do you have any last thoughts before we hit taco scores?
No, you put me on blast right away, and I gave all I had to say right up front. So,
all right, excellent.
I don't think anybody needs to watch this, but
I think everyone needs to watch this. I think everyone should watch The Room.
I mean, if you got nothing to do.
Yeah, right. It's available on YouTube, or I've got the DVD if you want to borrow it.
Can't believe you have the DVD.
Oh yeah, I had to have this movie. I had to. So that said, here at Sippable Opinions, we like to rate our movies out of 100 tacos, 0 being the worst, 100 being the best. Greg, out of 100 tacos, what do you give this cinematic masterpiece?
Okay, so since we are judging cinematic masterpiece, I give this movie 10 tacos out of 100 because that's about as many seconds that I could stay with it. And the end scene was about 10 seconds. So 10 out of 100, 1 to 10, 1 out of 10. That's my score.
Fair enough. Shasti, what's your taco score?
Would you say 10?
Yeah.
I'll give it 35. I'll give it 40.
Wow, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
It's that bad.
I
Maybe 35. Maybe I go back to 35. I think I'm going to go back to
Final answer? Final answer?
I'm closer to where Shasti. I'm kind of in the middle of where Shasti is. I give this a 37.
All right.
This is a 37. I have seen worse. And I mean, there are Leprechaun movies that are worse than this. So
Dude, Leprechaun in the Hood is way better than this.
Well, I didn't say Leprechaun in the Hood. I did Leprechaun Back in the Hood though. But yeah, there's Leprechaun movies that are not as well put together as this. So just for that, this being put together basically by two people, I got to give it a little bit of grace and say not the worst thing I've ever seen. Now,
It's mine.
let's take a look at, well, yeah, you don't watch bad movies. You do. Let's take a look at Rotten Tomatoes and see what they have to say. All right, so we have a 23 from critics and a 47 from audiences. That's
Surprising.
interesting split.
Yeah.
Interesting split. I thought the critic score would be lower and the audience score would be a little higher, but makes sense. Makes sense. Well,
It's probably just Tommy Wiseau like
You're right.
doing is hitting it a million times like from different things. He's a writer, director, producer, so
he's got like 40 accounts.
he's a
constantly
he's a
voting.
critic. He's
Yeah,
3 different
yeah.
titles.
Audience, listeners, watchers, hop down in the comments and let us know your taco score for The Room. Let us know if you agree with us, and if you don't, tell us why. That said, you know all the good stuff, the like, the subscribe, the Patreon, all that stuff will be down in the description. Grego, Shasti, thank you for going on this journey with me. I've been
course.
wanting to watch this movie since we started this
course.
show. I appreciate it. And for everybody watching and listening, thank you. And we've got to say goodbye.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
How much is it?
It'll be $18.
Here you go. Keep the change. Hi, doggy.
You're my favorite customer.